Hello, I prefer not to say my name, and I would like to tell you a decision I made a few years ago that has completely changed my life, and I would like to share mine with you. Experience. It all started at the beginning of my adult life. I was that person who he finished high school, he didn't go to college, and right away he started working. So this is me, my grandmother on my mother's side who had raised me. My mother had abandoned me with her when I was very young, and my father I never met. My grandmother didn't just raise me, they also lived with us some cousins. My grandmother was poor and the house was full of children. Made things even more difficult, the more she managed to create them all. Us. When I arrived at the end of high school, unfortunately my grandmother passed away, and everything connected with her collapsed. My uncles and my mother showed up to sell the house and split the money, and we, the grandchildren that she cared for, they didn't even think about us. I had to hurry, get a job, and I already feel like an adult. My mother doesn't even wanted contact with me, and neither did I with her, and so my life went on very lonely. I got a cheap rent for a room with a bathroom, and at the job I managed to ask for a voucher to buy food, and they gave it to me, and when I realized I was falling headfirst into adult life, and what a difficult thing. My bills were tight, and there was hardly any money left for something. I was very sad about this whole situation, more. I had no choice. I had to live. I thought sometimes to take my life, but even that no one would care. So I decided to continue my fight to try to improve in life, and maybe one day I'll be happy. I survived day after day and started to noticing time passing and routine engulfing me. I did nothing of my life, I only worked, went home, ate and slept, everyone. Day to night, I wondered if life was just that. And which was that why mine was always so bad? My grandmother had raised me a Christian, but I never understood why I suffer so much in my life from such an early age. So even if she forced me to go to church, I didn't have much faith in what they said. Actually, I was never much of a believer in any of those things. When I got a little older, my grandmother saw that it was forced. Then she said that I should only go with her if it was my will, and I never went again. The routine continued to overwhelm me until one day I heard it at work. Some colleagues commenting that our boss had made a pact to get rich and change his life. That's why he has everything he has. I went, asked them about it, and I didn't believe it existed, and they told me that it does exist and that it is real to the point that we are working for him. They said he was poor like all of us, and now it has a lot of stores and a lot of money. I couldn't forget about it. I slept with it on my mind, and I started looking everywhere for more information on, like making a deal with the devil, when I realized what I was doing, and I remembered my grandmother, that she was a Christian and wouldn't like not one bit about what I was interested in doing more. Soon I thought about my life, and the next day it was the day to pay the rent. Where I lived, I came into contradiction with myself, and I was very confused about everything and what I wanted. Until, due to lack of attention, I caused great damage to the company that I was working, and consecutively I got fired. My world. At that moment I shuddered. I decided that I wanted to change my life and not going through this kind of thing more, so I went back to researching about pacts and rituals. I researched about them on the internet like crazy and found various ways, prayers, and a lot of sympathies that none. It worked. So I lost what little faith I still had and started looking for another job, and nothing to find until on a site on the deep web I found one. Prayer that after midnight, it was a routine and had to do every day, so I started to practice this prayer until, after more than 2 weeks of doing it every day at the same time, I had a dream that I can't forget. It was candles and a crossroads. There were pentagrams on the floor and blood with dead animals. I woke up scared, and I think I understood what I should do. On the website, I found the prayer said that I should follow in the footsteps of dream and ask the devil for a pact. At that moment, I already knew more or minus what I had to do to get close to what I wanted. I swear to you, I didn't believe it until I had that dream. Sinister, and that's what I did. The hardest part was having to kill some animals. The more I managed to do, I found a perfect place to perform the ritual. I waited until the prayer time was announced, and I prepared all, spread the blood, made the pentagrams, and then waited to give the hour. Until I started the prayer, I felt a very strong wind and a very different energy in the room as I prayed those words, and in the end everything was the same, and I thought I had made a mistake. Again, I left everything in place as the pact required and left. A week had passed and nothing had happened until he completed 8 days, and a man knocked on my door. He dressed very well and delivered an invitation, was brief and left. I was intrigued by that, and I went to the place. When I got there, it was a very beautiful and commercial building with many people coming and going, and as soon as I got there, I left. Received, they were waiting for me. Soon a very beautiful woman Sign asked me to accompany her to a room where I would talk with the director of that location. I arrived at a very large room full of things that I had never seen before. Like jewelry and antiques. In the center of the room was a very large table, and the one sitting at it was the same man who had went to my house to give me the invitation. He looked at me and said, "Hello and welcome. You called our master," and he listened. At that time my doubts were gone, and I knew exactly what to do. It was about all that. I had achieved it. That man gave me a contract and a dagger, and said that if I really wanted it, I would have to sign with my blood, and without thinking twice and without reading the contract, I signed. The man gave me a black card from a very famous bank. When I took the card and saw that it had my name on it, and the man said to me, "Take advantage that they would contact me to direct me a function." I left the building, and as soon as I used the card at a cashier electronico, I was scared and very happy too. I had an amount of $600,000, money I had never seen in my life. I already went out buying a lot of things and went to a 5-star hotel. Enjoy that money. Woke up with a super hangover and went to look at the bill again, and it had about $700,000 now, even though I spent about $20,000 last night. I was very happy, everything I wanted. It was within my reach. As the days went by, I fulfilled several dreams that I had that money wouldn't let me do, until their contact arrived, and they told me to go back to that building to follow the instructions. When I got there, my job was to collect debts. I was never strong or intimidating, but I had no choice and no conversation. I just followed the order. It was a very simple job. I charged people what they owed. I didn't know what they owed. My job was just to write down their answer, whether they would pay or not, and report their answer to my superiors. As the days went by, I started to working for them during the week. I didn't know what happened to people. To be honest, I didn't even see them twice. The strangeness of it, the dread in their eyes whenever they saw me. The money kept falling, and I was living the best phase of my life. I bought an expensive and beautiful car, and I went to my old job to see how things were going. When I saw my old colleagues, nobody believed that I had really changed my life. And it was like that with everyone, even my family. About 6 months had already passed. I worked for them 13 days a month and had the rest for myself. I completely changed my pattern of life. I went from being a failure to being successful. I had really turned the game. Shortly before completing a year serving the devil, I met a woman. She was a waitress I met on a normal day at work. We exchanged our contacts and we started talking. I didn't know anymore that I had found the woman of my life. Soon we started seeing each other and hooking up too. She was very simple and also poor like I was before. Money for me didn't matter that much anymore, so I already had everything. And my life until then had been completely different from everything else than I had imagined for myself. I lived years and months of incredible things that I saw happen in my life. But when I met that woman, I just wanted to start a family with her and live forever together. Soon we started dating and we moved in together. Of course I took her out of her job and asked her to live my life with me, and she accepted. Poor thing. It pains me so much to write this. Everything was going so well. We had a dream life until she got pregnant. For me it was a dream to be a father, and everything was incredible. Even more incredible than getting rich. My son was born healthy, and at that moment, a few days later, they called me at work, and there that man who was my boss said that the boss wanted proof of my devotion. That worried me, and the man ended the sentence by saying that the devil wanted my son. That broke me. That's all I loved most at that moment. Get out of there. Without talking to anyone, and withdrew as much money as I could from the bank. In the days that passed, I took as much as I could out of the bank every day. I knew that everything would fall apart. After all, I started to owe the devil. That man started calling me asking what I was going to do, and I started hanging up and not answering the phone. My wife didn't know anything about it. I told her that my money was a family heirloom, until the next day it knocked at my door, a woman in the same role I was. She was demanding me and wanted to know my answer. I knew I was screwed and said I would never pay that, and she said I should think about what I was doing. I sent her away, and I had the idea of running away. I invented a trip. My son had days, and I had to run away in a hurry without telling my wife, until in the middle of the highway leaving the city I got involved in an accident. A car appeared out of nowhere and hit mine. It was a fatal accident for my wife and son, and I knew it wasn't an accident. I had not been hurt, and only they had died. At that moment my life was over. I didn't know what else to do. I was aimless. I had nothing. My family, my everything had died there in that accident. I went through hell and had to bury them both, and when I went to look at the bank there was no more money. I bought weapons with the money that was left over, and I went to that building, and there I was scared. The building was abandoned and closed. I had gone several times in that place. I got lost. I went crazy. Today I'm homeless, and I have nothing left. Just the memories of the life I had and the remorse that consumes me when I'm sober. My loving wife, my loving son, and everything I had. Today I have literally nothing left, and I learned my lesson in the worst possible way. I still have dreams, and in it I'm trapped in a place where they laugh at me. I've tried to kill myself several times, but I can never die. My life is a shame. If you made it this far, please never do what I did.